All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining today's traveler session. My name is Alina Boy, and I am the application analyst for the Concur application. And I also have Luke Quell on the line, who has been our program manager for this Concur application. And we do have everyone muted, so if you have a question, please put it in the chat, and Luke would be happy to help answer any questions that you guys have. All right, so with that, I will go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so the very first thing is, how do we access Concur? So starting in your My UMB portal, there is going to be a Concur travel and expense widget here. And then that's how you would get into Concur. We do have single sign-on activated, so you don't need a username or password to log in. Once you log into your MyUMB, then you should be able to click on this widget and it'll take you directly into Concur. And so here we're at the landing page, and the very first thing that you're going to want to do when you first log into Concur is you are going to want to complete your profile. So over on the top right-hand side, under Profile, we're going to go into Profile Settings. And one thing to note, this step is crucial to do before you actually go in to book anything. So just to get out of the way, make sure you just do it when you first log in. And then you're going to go into Personal Information. All right, so in here, you're just going to fill out the required fields. The name that is listed here should match whatever is on your official government ID. So whatever you're going to be using to travel, make sure that the name that appears here is what's on your ID. And you're going to go through, you can add in your work address and your home address, and that will populate when you complete your mileage. And I'll show you guys that in a little bit. Your contact information, just fill out your work phone or home phone, and your mobile phone. Put in your emergency contact. If you have any travel preferences, you can put that in here. Any frequent traveler programs or advantage programs, you can put it in your profile and it will automatically populate when you go to book. So if you do travel frequently and you just put all of this information into your profile, you just put it in one time and you don't have to keep entering it in when you go to book. If you have TSA pre-check, you can enter that information in here. If you have someone who books on your behalf, so if I wanted Luke to be able to book a trip for me, and one thing to note is that this is completely separate from a delegate, which I will get into shortly. You would have to add that person in here under this Assistant and Travel Arranger section. And so if you want someone to be able to book on your behalf, they are a travel arranger, and you would have to add them in here under Add an Assistant. And then I am going to search for Luke. And then you're just going to want to make sure that you check this box, can book travel for me. If you do not check that box, then Luke won't be able to actually book anything. He would then just become a travel assistant, which that person can just go into my profile and add any of the travel preferences and any of those information, but they can't actually book. So if you want someone to be able to book for you, you just have to make sure that you check this box, can book travel for me, and then hit save. And so now Luke has been added, can book travel has been checked. If I just wanted to add a travel assistant, I could do that as well. So I'm going to add Willa as my travel assistant, and I'll hit save. And then you can see that Willa can't actually book travel for me. There's this minus sign here that this person cannot book travel, but Luke and Susan, who's already in here, can book for me. If you have a personal credit card that you like to use when you are traveling, you can add that in here as well, just so that when you go to book, it'll pre-populate for you there. You don't have to add it in here if you don't want to. You can also just add it in as you are going to book. All right, so once you complete your profile, while we're in here, we can talk about delegates. So over on the left-hand side under request delegates, this is where you would go in to add a delegate. And we have two types of delegates. We have a traveler delegate and we also have an approver delegate. So the difference between the two is that a traveler delegate can create a travel request or expense report on your behalf. And an approver delegate is someone who can approve on your behalf. So if you have an approver role, which are either the department travel admin, supervisor, or cost center approver, if you have any of those three roles, you can delegate your approval to someone else to be able to do that for you. And so let's say that I am a supervisor approver and I want Luke to be able to approve things on my behalf. I'm going to click add. And I will search for Luke. I added him in here, but I want to make sure I check the correct boxes here. So I want him to be able to approve for me. So I'm going to hit can approve. It automatically checks this can view receipts. And then I also want him to receive approval emails. That way he knows when there is something that is pending my approval. So he doesn't have to keep logging in and checking for that. If I were just on PTO for a week, you could set a temporary approver. So if I just wanted Luke to be able to approve things for me while I was out of the office for a week or however long, you can set a temporary approver and just put in the date range. So I also want to add in a traveler delegate. So someone who can create a request for me and they can also create an expense report for me. So we're going to add Willa as my traveler delegate. Okay, we have Willa added in, and I'm going to check the box can prepare. That means that she can prepare requests and expense reports for me. And then I also want her to receive any emails that are associated to those requests or expense reports. And once I set up my delegates, I'm going to hit save. And so now I have a traveler delegate and I have an approver delegate, and these people can log into the system and act on my behalf to do whatever roles that I have assigned them to do. One thing to note is whoever you add in your request delegates will automatically flow into expense delegates. So if we go over on the left-hand side under expense delegate, if I click in here, these people will automatically flow into expense delegate. So you only need to add them in one place, and then they will become both the request and the expense delegate. If you want to see who has delegated you, so who are you a delegate for, there is a tab called Delegate For, and I can see that I am a delegate for Willa, Laura, and Luke. For Luke, I can approve on his behalf. For Laura, I can create requests and expense reports on her behalf. And for Willa, I can do all of the above. I can approve for her, and I can also create requests and expense reports for her. So when you are acting as a delegate, so let's say that I wanted to act on behalf of Willa, since she assigned me as a delegate, I'm going to go up on the top right-hand side back into Profile. And once you've been assigned as a delegate, you would see this a delegate for another user who has granted you this permission radio button, and you would select that, and then you can search for the person that you want to act on behalf. So we want to act on behalf of Willa. and we're going to click switch. And so now I am in the profile acting as Willa Fan on the top right-hand side in green. You can see that we are no longer inside of my profile. We are inside of Willa's profile. And so now I can do whatever functions that she has assigned for me to be able to do. So I could create requests for her, expense reports, and then I can also approve anything that's pending approval. One thing to note is that when you are acting as a delegate, it does keep an audit trail. So if you are approving something on behalf of someone else or creating a request on behalf of someone else or expense report, the system will track that and it will say Alina Voigt on behalf of Willa Fan. All right, and then once you are done, just make sure that you go back into your own profile. So myself has been selected, and we're going to switch back to myself. All right, so now we're back inside of my personal profile. If you go up at the top, it no longer says acting as Willa Fan. You click in here, we are inside of Alina Voigt's profile. So that is setting up profile and setting up your delegates. So we've set up our profile. Now let's say that Luke has approved for me to take a trip to Boston. And so the first thing that I want to do is I want to create a travel request. So up at the top, there is a tab for requests. You can also go over here under authorization requests. We're going to click up here. And I do have some requests that have been staged here, and then I'll kind of go through the different processes that these are in right now. But for this example, we just want to create a new request. So we're going to click create new request. And under policy, this is a travel request that we're creating. We do also have business expense request policy. So if you wanted to put in a request for, say, a phone expense or anything of that nature, you could select the business expense request. But for this demo, we are going to do a travel request. And then how will you book your trip? If you want to book your trip through a travel agent, through our travel management company, you could select Agent Assist. If you want to book it yourself in Concur, you would select Book in Concur. If you know that you will, for whatever reason, be booking outside of policy, then you would select this exception booking, and your request would be routed to our CBFO for approval. Or if you won't be booking anything at all, then you would select no booking. So for this example, we are going to book in Concur. All right, so request/trip name, there is a naming convention. If you click on this tooltip, it will tell you what that is. So it's TA for travel authorization, the calendar year, your initials, and then wherever you're going to. If you do take frequent trips to the same location, you can add anything else after you put in the location, just so that you can distinguish between those different trips. So we're going to do TA 2023 AV, and we're going to say Boston, and I'm just going to put today's date, 4/18. All right. Trip start date, let's just say it's going to start May 1st, and we are going for the entire week. Trip purpose, there is a list here, but if the reason that you're traveling is not in here, you could select other. And then just under additional information at the bottom, you would explain what that other purpose is. Trip type, is it in-state? Is it international? Is it out of state? Boston is out of state. And then traveler type, are you an employee? Are you a non-employee? For this example, we are an employee staff. And then main destination, where are we going to? We are going to Boston. And then describe the benefit to UMB. You just want to try to put something brief here because there is a character limit. So for this example, I'm just saying that this is for a live demo. does this trip include personal travel? Will I be taking PTO in conjunction to this business trip? For this example, I am not, but if you were taking personal travel with this, you could select yes, and then just put your personal travel dates over to the right-hand side. Is UMB paying for any portion of this travel? Will I be submitting an expense report for this request? Yes, I am. So I'm going to select yes. The only reason you would select no is if an external entity would, or such as the foundation, will be paying for the entire cost of your trip up front. So that means that you wouldn't be submitting an expense report for any costs. So we are going to select yes. Additional information, since we selected other under trip purpose, we're just going to say this is for a live demo. And then your project SOPF, in here you can change it to whatever you need to. So if you click into, and it's a connected list, so you kind of have to start from the beginning and over to the next category. So, but if you have any that you use frequently, it'll show up at the top under most recently used. So if you have one that you know that you're going to use every time, it will just show up here, and you could select it and it will automatically change all of the fields for you. But we are going to go back to what we had before. And then under comments to or from approvers, we're just going to say, please do not approve. This is for a live demo. So this is going to show up to whoever is approving this request. So we're going to hit create request. And so what we just did is we created our request header. And so if I go back and click here, we can see anything that we just filled out on our header. And now we are going to add any expected expenses that we think we're going to incur during our trip. So we're going to click add. And then let's say that we want to take a flight to Boston. So we're going to add an air ticket. And then our from, we are going to leave from BWI. And it automatically filled in Boston Airport. The date gets automatically populated based off of what's on your header. Departing time, let's say that we are going to depart around 11:25 a.m. Whatever you put in here for your departing time will populate as the search criteria when you go to book. And I will show you guys that in a little bit. And let's just say that we're going to return around the same time. And let's just say the estimated cost for this flight will be $200, and we will click save. Okay, so now we added our air ticket. Another expense that we might incur is personal car mileage. Let's say that I'm going to drive to the airport. So we're going to select personal car mileage. Okay, and then we are going to go into this mileage calculator. And this basically pulls Google Maps in. The home address that you had in your profile will automatically populate in here. And then we're going to say that we are driving to BWI. And it automatically calculates the mileage for that. This is a one-way, and we want to make it a round trip. Okay, and then if I wanted to deduct the commute from the office, I could check this box on the bottom left-hand corner that says deduct commute. And then in here, it automatically pulls in, again, your home address and your work address that is in your profile. And we're going to want to deduct round trip. And so now I get 0.9 miles for my drive into BWI. So we're going to add to expense. And we're going to click save. And it automatically calculates the amount for you. So we'll click save. And so now I get 66 cents as my estimated expense for mileage. Let's say that we also want to add in per diem. So we're going to go down and into per diem. And the per diem form in here pulls in the rates from GSA. So depending on the location that you have in here, it'll automatically calculate what those rates are. So all you have to do is click save. And so it has automatically calculated the per diem rate that I would receive to go to Boston. And it also calculates that first and last day at 75%. Let's say that we were taking personal travel with this. Let's say I wanted to explore Boston a few days before the actual business trip. And I wanted to reduce this per diem amount. So we're going to hit add, and then there is this reimbursement reduction expense type. And then under reimbursement reduction reason, we are going to select per diem rate reduction. And let's say I just want to reduce $40. And then under justification, we're saying the personal travel included. So we'll hit save. And so now this $40 has been deducted from the total amount. It's in parentheses. So this is a reduced amount. And so you would go through and add any other expenses that you think you might incur. If you have any attachments that you need to include, you would go up at the top under attachments, attach documents, and you can upload anything that you need to upload in here. Okay. And once we're ready, we would just hit submit request, accept and continue. And so now we can see that our TA 2023 AV Boston 418 is in submitted status. It's green. And down at the bottom, we can see which approval workflow step it's in. So right now it's pending Department Travel Admin Approver. And if we go back in to our request, we can also see the workflow trail. If you go under request details, under request timeline, we can see the approval workflow. So right now it's sitting with our Department Travel Admin. After Ashley approves it, then it'll go over to Willa, my supervisor. And then after the supervisor approves, it'll go to cost center approver, which doesn't show until after Willa actually approves it. And then once the cost center approver approves, then I will be ready to book the trip. All right. So going back into the request, you can see in here that there are some in different stages. So I have one that is in this blue ready to book stage. I have one that is fully approved. If at any point you needed to recall your request and make any changes, you can go back in. As long as it hasn't been fully approved, you can recall up at the top this red recall button. If you needed to make any changes, it'll come back to you. You can make whatever changes you need to and then resubmit, and it'll go back into the workflow. Okay, so let's say that our trip has been fully approved. It will turn into this blue ready to book status, and at the bottom it says pending online booking. So we will go back into the request, and then up at the top right-hand corner, there is going to be a book travel button. So this is the only place where you should be booking your trip if you did select that book and concur option. We do have this travel tab at the top, and on the home page, there is that search criteria. Those places should only be for pulling up estimates or checking to see what flight options are available. You should never actually book from the travel tab or from the home tab. So you would go back into your request after it's been fully approved, and you should always see this book travel button if you selected book in Concur. So we are going to click on book travel, and then whatever departing time that you had in your request will show up in here as the search criteria, and it does search plus or minus 6 hours from whatever time that we have set. So for this example, I had put in 7:58 a.m. for both my departing times for going to Boston and then coming back home. So we'll click on proceed to booking. If you did need to change it, you can also do that as well. All right. So one thing to note is booking from the request is the only way that whatever you're booking will actually tie to the fact that you have a request. So that's why it's very important that you actually book from your travel request. So I'm just going to give it a few moments to finish loading. We do have some pop-up just as reminders. So this one is just to make sure that we completed our profile before booking, and we did that already. So we're just going to hit OK. And so it'll show all of the flight options, is also showing some train options in here as well. If I wanted to specifically look at Southwest flights, I could click here under Southwest and it'll only show me those options. And then this yellow exclamation triangle is a warning sign, so it will tell you if there is a flight that is out of policy. So for this example, this one is 20% greater than the least logical fare, but it's not going to stop you from booking. It's just more so as a warning. And there may be legitimate reasons why you may need to book something that is a bit higher than whatever is the least logical. So let's say that we do want to book something that, is out of policy. So we're going to go in here and we are going to select this want to get away fare. And then you would just, for documentation purposes, put in the reason why you're booking a flight that's 20% greater than the least logical fare. So we're just going to select one of these options. And then we're just going to put a note here. This is for a demo. And we'll click save. All right, so now it's going to show us a summary of the fare that we just selected. And then down here, if I had a Southwest program, and if I had it in my profile, it would show up here for me to select. I don't have a Southwest program. If you forgot to put it in your profile, you can also add it in here as well. It'll show a summary of the fare. And then for payment method, if you had a personal credit card that you had in your profile, it would show up here as an option that shows up for everyone as well, or all employees, is this UMD Baltimore card. So if you didn't want to pay for the cost of your flight up front, you could put it on the University of Maryland card, which also has been referred to as the TMC card or the Ghost card. And then you would reserve your flight and continue. You can also add in your personal credit card here if you didn't have it in your profile. Okay, we're not actually going to book this flight because I don't want to get in trouble. So we are going to go back. And let's say that we took our trip. We took our trip, we came back, we had a great time, and now we want to put in our expense report. So we are going to go back into request. Once you've booked your trip, you came back, if you go back into your request, this blue ready to book status will change over to this green approved status. So you'd go back into your request, and then up at the top, you're going to see this create expense report button. I do have some alerts, but it's because I made some changes to the system, so we can ignore that for now. And so this is where you're going to go to create your expense report, and in order for your expense report to actually link to your request. So we're going to hit create expense report. And so now everything that we had in our requests kind of pulls over into your expense report. Before I go into this any further, there is something that I wanted to show you all that is a little bit hard to demonstrate in the live system. So I do have some screenshots available to show you guys, but under this available expenses section, if I did book my flight through Concur, then that flight would show up here as an available expense. And so I do have a screenshot to show what that would look like. So here, let's say that, you know, I booked my Southwest flight. It will show up here under TMC card. It'll show the flight. It'll show the cost as well. And so what you would do is you would check the boxes on the left-hand side, and then you can move the expense into whatever expense report that you have created. And so once you move that expense over and you go into the expense, it'll populate the receipt for you. It'll say this is an e-receipt reservation. It'll, you know, pull in all of the information for you, so you don't have to enter anything in. The cost will automatically be there, and you can't change it because that is what has been paid. And so this is really a great feature, so you don't have to manually put in, you know, the amount and the receipt. Everything kind of gets populated in for you. Okay. So I just wanted to show you guys that, and we're going to go back into our expense report right now. So in the expense report, we do have a bunch of alerts. We'll go through that in a second. One thing that you want to make sure that you do is you want to go back into your header. So right now it's called TA 2023. You want to make sure that you change that to TE. So under report details, you can click report header, or I believe you can also click on this report number. So we'll click in here. And then under trip name, the naming convention is similar. It's TE for travel expense. And then the calendar year, your initials, and then where you went. So for this one, we'll change it to T. Oh, don't know what happened there. T. Okay, my mouse. All right, TE. Alrighty, so TE 2023 AV Boston demo. And then if there's anything that you needed to change in here, you could do that while you're in here. If you wanted to change the project or SOPF that's on your header, you can do that. And then in here, I'm going to want to check this. Yes, I require travel allowance. So if you wanted to add in your per diem into your expense report, and you would select this yes. And there is another place where you can go into that, and I'll show you that as well. We're going to hit next. And then it'll take you into this itinerary. And so in here, I'm going to put in my departure city, which was Baltimore. The date of the trip, which I believe for this one was on March 3rd. The time, it doesn't really matter, but it is a required field, so you have to put it in here. And then the arrival city was Boston. I'm just going to say that was 7 a.m. as well. And we are going to hit save. And so now we have to put in the return, and it automatically populates in here that we were in Boston. We're going back to Baltimore. And then I believe that I had my return date set as the 5th. And we're going to put the same time. We'll hit save. And so now I have this itinerary set up. We're going to hit next. And then it will just, you know, show you a summary here. We'll hit next again. And so now it'll show you the per diem rates that you get, your travel allowance for each day. So on the first day, we get that 75%. Any days in between, we get 100% of the per diem rate for Boston. And then on the last day, it's at 75% again. If dinner or lunch or breakfast was provided, I could check it in here and it will automatically reduce the cost. So let's say that dinner was provided on the first day. I check this box, it'll reduce that dinner rate that gets pulled in from GSA. So now for the first day, it's only $23.25. And then we're going to hit create expense. Okay, so now we have our per diems added. It'll list it out per day. And so now we're actually going to go through each of our expenses that got pulled in from our request. Again, if we had our airfare that was available under that available expenses section, we would just delete this one that was in here, and we would use the one that we pulled in. So we don't actually have one, so we're going to keep this one in here. So we're going to go through our hotel. And right now, there is some alerts here. So, the yellow exclamation warnings are just, they're warnings. They're more so of like information or reminders. So just make sure that you read it to make sure that you're doing whatever you need to do. So if we go down, we have to put in our check-in date, which was March 3rd. We'll put in our vendor. Let's say that we stayed at the Hilton. And then let's say that for our payment type, we use the P card. If you needed to update the cost, let's say that the cost of our hotel was actually $580. And then just make sure that you add your receipt. I just have a bunch of pictures of my dogs, but please make sure that you're actually attaching your receipt. If you had something unique related to this hotel expense that you needed to kind of explain, you can put that into the comments field, and then you could hit save expense. Okay, so now under hotel, our scary red exclamation point has disappeared, and so now we're going to go into our airfare. And there are some warnings here. So we do have a warning that this is going to go to CBFO approval because we didn't technically book this through the system, and we have an airfare expense in here. And so just make sure that you're reading through these warning messages. And we are going to go in and add any of the required fields. Southwest. So let's say that our vendor was Southwest Airlines. For payment type, let's say that we used that UMD card to book, we would select this TMC card. And then we want to add our receipt in. Okay. And we'll hit save expense. And so now we don't have that red exclamation point, but there is still a warning attached here. This isn't going to stop you from submitting. It's more of just a, hey, a heads up. And so we're going to go into our conference expense next. And for this, we're missing the vendor name. Just say this is a demo. And then we're going to attach our receipt. And let's say that I want to allocate this conference fee to a different funding source than whatever's on my header. I could click on this allocate button here. And then it'll pull up the current allocation. So this is where it's currently being allocated. If I wanted to change that, we could click add. And then you can change it to whatever project or SOPF that you wanted to. So let's say that I'm going to use one of my most recently used ones. And then we'll hit save. Okay, so now we can see that it's going to this different funding source, and then we'll hit save. Okay, so I just have a warning left. It says that I selected out of pocket, and it's just reminding me to make sure that that is the correct payment type that we used. And let's say that we did, we paid out of pocket. So we're gonna hit save expense. Okay, so now we still have this warning. And then over on the right, you can see that this expense has been allocated. If you click in here, it'll show where that allocation has been saved to. Okay, let's say that we didn't take a taxi. We can just check this box and delete it. And then for our parking expense, let's say that it was $100. We don't need to change that amount. The warning here is that we have to attach a receipt. So we're just we can click on this icon. You don't have to actually go into the expense. And then we can attach a receipt. And so now that automatically got attached. That warning message went away. And so now we are good to go. If we go at the top, it says we have 2 alerts. They are warning messages. If you click in here, it'll show you what it is. And then once you're ready, you would submit the report. All right, so one last thing that I want to address is because we had a transition phase between the old travel system and into Concur, there are going to be some situations where you had an approved request in the old travel system, and now we can't access that, and you have to put in your expense report through Concur. So what do we need to do for that? Up at the top, I'm going to go back into my expense tab. And then what you would do is you would just create a new report here, and you would put in the header information, which is pretty much the same thing as on the request side. I do have one that has already been prepped here. So we're going to go into this expense report. And anytime you're creating an expense report and there isn't a request tied to it, you'll get this alert here. It'll say that this expense report is going to route to CBFO for approval, because technically the system doesn't see that we have an approved request, but we do have one. It's just in the old travel system. If you go into report details and you look at the report timeline, you can see that the last workflow step is CBFO exception approval. So if we wanted to add in our TBE request to this expense report, we're going to add an expense. We're going to go down to the bottom, and we have this TBE request expense type. We're going to click on that. And what you would do is you would you would have downloaded or printed a copy of your e-travel request, and you would put in the request number in here. Okay, and then you would attach a copy of that travel approval that you had from the old travel system. And so we would attach that in here. And again, these are just pictures of my dogs, but please attach what you actually need to attach. And then we're going to hit save expense. Okay, the alert is still here. It's just a warning. We can still submit. But if we go back into the report timeline, we can see that the CBFO workflow step has been removed. So we know that it's no longer going to route to CBFO for approval. And then from here, you can add in, whatever expenses that you needed to add, and then submit your report. All right. Okay, I wanted to leave some time in case there were questions that we wanted to address with the entire group. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And Luke, was there anything that we needed to bring up?
I'm going to stop the recording so we have a clean recording of the session.